Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining us this lunch hour. I want to kick things off with a little bit of a poll. Who is taking home today's win? Is it Jeff, our fearless leader, Jeff? Is it Frank, feisty Frank? We'd love to hear. Start voting. Get used to using our poll system. We've got a few polls for you today. So get a hang of the platform if you're not familiar. Who will be winning come 1 p.m. this afternoon?
All right. Before we jump into this real quick, because you can see I'm coming from Coalmarch, I guess Coalmarch West, right?
Yeah.
Coalmarch West. So I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm the home of the Louisville Slugger. I'm home of Muhammad Ali. I mean, do you really want to mess with this, Frank? I mean, it's in our DNA. We fight.
Yeah. So what Jeff means is today we're switching things up. The format for today's webinar is inspired by ESPN's Pardon the Interruption. So expect some quick debates, some time segments, a lot of audience participation, I hope. But we do have Jeff Davis and Frank Andolina. I'll have them introduce themselves and just give you a little bit of rundown of who they are. We already know Jeff's from Louisville, so I'll pass it off to you, Jeff. Give us a little rundown.
First, Jeff Davis, based in Louisville, Kentucky. I am the CEO of Coalmarch. I've been around this organization, Frank RK, for 4 or 5 years now? 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years.
4 years, yeah.
We came from the WorkWave world. Just a public service announcement. We are no longer with WorkWave. We're no longer affiliated. They are partners, but we are no longer part of WorkWave. I've spent 25 years in the technology industries, marketing services, sales and marketing is primarily my background. I've kind of been all over and done a lot of things, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I love what we're doing right now at Coalmarch and super excited. And these are fun. I like
yes.
too.
Yes. He's bumped up.
I'm looking forward to taking you down today, Jeff, as I normally do in the office. For those of you who don't know me, I live in Raleigh, where Coalmarch is headquartered, but I come from Western New York, Rochester, New York. So I am tough. I was brought up to be tough. I was shoveling snow at 3 with my dad. So you want to talk about toughness? I'm bringing it.
Walking uphill to school both ways, right, Frank?
Yes.
Are we at that age where we can start making that claim? I think we're getting there.
Oh, we're there. We're definitely there. But yeah, I have been part of Coalmarch for almost 10 years. Joined Coalmarch in the leadership team in January of 2016. So I'll be celebrating 10 years with Coalmarch very soon. Hopefully I make it.
You got it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, both of these guys are really focused on helping lawn and pest businesses grow, but they've got a different approach to it. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that today. Jeff pushes, for a bold reinvestment, and Frank takes a more profit first, practical route. So throughout the session, we'd love to see you get involved as well. Maybe some bullying in the chat the one time it's appropriate. You'll get to vote on who makes the stronger case. Jump in on the polls, share your thoughts in the chat. We'd love to see it. So one quick note before we get started. Today's session is being recorded. You'll get the replay in your inbox about 30 minutes after we wrap up. And if you do like this format, make sure to check out coalmarch.com and sign up for some of our next sessions. This is our first test of something like this. So first poll for today. What's your number one off-season business priority? We have a few options there. We'll be looking at this over the next little bit. Chime in. Is it cash flow, marketing, staffing, equipment, or maybe something else top of mind? We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you're working towards this off-season.
I mean, we're biased, but shouldn't it be marketing? No, it could be marketing.
We'll see later today.
Oh, there we go. We get one vote. Okay, we got one.
We got one for marketing. Awesome. Love to hear it. All right. So as you get those final votes in, we're going to head into our first segment, which is our cash flow showdown. Let's see. Cash flow showdown. The first topic we're going to be talking about today is end of year cash. Hoard it or move it. And the timer starts now.
All right, I'll kick off this one. So you don't let money sit idle. reinvest, especially before the tax season. You want to pay taxes on any type of retained earnings that are in the business, especially if you're a C Corp. Let's face it, 3.5% interest rate in a bank account is not worth the opportunity cost that you could have for investing those dollars into your business right now. Cash flow without velocity is dead weight. Marketing and investing in marketing and tech investments right now is going to be a return on investment for the long haul. Your bank account should not be a trophy case. Put your money to work. Disagree with that, Frank?
Ladies and gentlemen, this man is starting to try to confuse us right off the bat. He wants us to, he's saying that having reserves is money sitting idle. I don't buy that. Jeff, we just had a company meeting yesterday where we talked about the importance of cash flow and how that opens up opportunity and security. And if you're moving it just to squash taxes, then you're losing all of your security.
But at the same time, it's cash flow. Cash flow comes in, it comes out, right? It's cash flow. Cash flow is just meeting our obligations. The dollars in the bank, that trophy bank account, look how much cash I have. That's what we're talking about, right? Like sitting on that cash. Now, being prudent and saying, all right, we need to have enough cash to meet payroll for a few cycles, especially when cash flow is going to be low in the off season. But, putting it to work right now, putting the investment out right now, you're looking for a return for next year. I mean, let's face it, we're going to get into a lot of topics, so I won't get ahead of myself here. But putting those dollars to work so that they're actually doing something for next year, the year after, building that brand. I was listening to Donnie's podcast today, the PMP Insiders, and there was an individual in there who went to the WorkWave conference 2 years ago and was basically an individual operator, and now he's pushing, I think, a $20 million business. I guarantee you he wasn't because he put money in the bank. He put that money to use out there in the market.
Oh, I'm sure he did. And, I think we can level on this one because really it's just a matter of how big that reserve should be. So you need to be estimating your end of year taxes. You need to know how much you need to cover for, you need all of your cash requirements locked down. So as long as you've got your cash requirements locked down and you feel like you're not digging yourself a hole when the season does start to pick up in the spring, then that's really ultimately where you need to be. So, it's not one, it's not spending like crazy just to remove the cash, but it really is just make sure you've got your cash requirements covered for the year, and then everything else should be considered reinvestment.
I agree with that. I think we're both saying the same thing, really.
I think so too.
Keep your reserve, and above and beyond, you need to be investing, right? Fair.
I think we're going to end up virtually hugging it out at some point during this meeting.
Hey, it's still early now. It's still early. We've got a long way to go. So let's sort of dive a little bit deeper into those off-season spending or saving. I guess it depends on what you're looking at. But prepay discounts is a smart move, or does a cash drain? Frank, you're up first.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, discounts are margin killers. I think we can all agree on that. So you have to be very, very smart and not let maybe a CEO of a certain company say, let's start spending. I want to invest. You got to make sure, just like cash, you've got the right reserves in place. So don't make those discounts too great, because you might be cutting into your margins. And then all winter, you're going to be starting to see low cash flow. And then you're going to run into not having the investment in the spring.
All right. So look at this from another angle. We can still talk positive margins, right? What's the biggest driver of margins and scale on a business, pest and green? It's route optimization. So right now, securing those routes, it's worth it to give a discount and get aggressive on the prepays so that you can build optimization and scale for the spring. That's the way that I'm looking at it. You can always raise prices down the road. As consumers, we're used to price raises at what are eggs right now? We don't want to talk about eggs. But it's just a numbers game, right? You're trying to build as much volume as you can right now throughout the year to optimize those routes and get as much scale as you can. So, getting cash up front gives you a lot of flexibility in your business. It's that cash we were just talking about, Frank. So now you can you're hiring people early. We'll touch on that too. You can get tiered discounts. That's another program too. So, prepay can come with tiered discounts, like reward loyalty, keep people in when we're talking about retention. Prepaying's not a discount. It's a down payment on market dominance.
Wow.
All right. So
I don't think I can come back from that.
Well, that's got to be a snippet on social at some point, right?
Would love to hear. Do you agree with Jeff? Do you agree with Frank? Let's hear it. As we move into our next segment, we're going to switch gears a little bit. Let's see the votes. Jeff or Frank? Who's got it?
Probably only one vote, Frank. Don't feel bad.
It's a quick win. All right, on to our next segment. We are talking about growth investment. So the first topic is add a service line now or focus on what works. Jeff, over to you first.
So, yeah, I'm a little bit on the fence on this one. I think there's pros and cons. So this is gonna be a hug it out, Frank. This is gonna be one we're probably gonna agree, but I'm gonna take the aggressive stance here. Your competitors are quiet. Now's the time to expand. Like it's kind of like when the market shrinks. When we go into the big R word, the big recession, the companies that are successful long term always double down during a recession, right? And I think this is kind of the same thing. We have an annual recession we go into. I think it's about time to if you're going to look at adding a service line down the line, if you're going to do that, I think it's a good time in the off season to go ahead and prep for it. You can go ahead and put your training in place with your individuals. You can invest more in a good way to grow if you're going to do it. Now, I'm also a big fan of doubling down on what you're good at. So I'm not going to make the argument that you should always be adding service lines. There's no one to say that everyone should be into Christmas light decorations that are in lawn care or snow removal. That's up to you on whether or not you want to do it. But if you really want to do it, I think it's a good time of year to go ahead and start making those investments because you can build it up for the next season and really be ready to strike when the iron's hot.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You and I are probably going to agree more on this topic than any of the others. So, when I look at this and the consideration of growing with an additional service line, there's so many factors that you need to consider before expanding your services. Have you doubled down on your most profitable services that you have today? Generally, I recommend to expand your service area and focus on growing that way and something that you're already doing and doing very well, as opposed to, like you said, adding in some ancillary services that your business might not be known for. That said, I can definitely see in pockets of the country where seasonality is more pronounced to start looking at some off-season services, just like Christmas lights, like Jeff mentioned, to help supplement that. The longer, the areas that we're in where there's a longer season, you are less likely to have to worry about that off-season revenue that many of our, northern companies see.
I mean, my tree guys are out here because I got a problem with ash trees. Surprise! Got a problem with my ash trees in the southeast. And now we got root rot and stuff going on, and they're trying to sell me pests, lawn care. Granted, they do a great job on the trees, so they'll get a shot at it. But they've been adding these things on over time, and I think they were really smart about how they did it, how they approached our market. They knew their audience really well, and they took the time. And guess when I started getting those notices? Ding, ding, ding! It was in the off season. It wasn't during the middle of the season. It was the off season.
Now, there's one key point that I really need to make with this when expanding your services. If you are a company who is known as the top pest control company in your area, lawn care, etc., be very careful with introducing more services that you're not experts in, because you don't want your brand to take a hit because you now provide crappy lawn care services, even though you're the best pest control company in town. So very, very important to be ready to go if you are expanding into a new service line, but I would be very cautious with that.
All right, I'm going to shout out real quick to my guy Chris O'Brien over at Limb Walker Tree. We went to high school together. He's my tree guy. Limb Walker, maybe it's not a great name for that pest service or that lawn care. Limb Walker says trees, right? So we got to go talk, Chris.
All right, so moving on to our next topic here, let's switch over to tech stack. Tech stack upgrades during the off season. Is it a luxury or is it a necessity?
Let me jump into this one real quick, Frank. I got to come into this one. I wish Joe Cusick, one of our investors, I wish that he was here for this conversation. I believe tech stack is not a luxury. I know a ton of successful companies that started their business around their tech stack. And if you look at what Real Green did, how Real Green had their market dominance in their market, they came back and said, here's the system. Deploy this system, follow what we say, follow it. And I know people that, in fact, I know a guy right now that's hanging out at Burning Man while his company's running in the background. I don't even know if he flew commercial out there because he built his entire business around real green. So in my mind, it's absolutely not a luxury. If you're not building around your systems, you're building a sandcastle. It's not something that's going to last long term.
So whether it's AI or any other kind of software, if you don't have solid processes, you're doomed, because you can't just put a new shiny tool in place to fix disorganization and a lack of discipline in your operation. So this is going to be another one where Jeff and I actually agree on, because over the last year in particular, we have now seen this is the necessity for every business. But it's going to work the best for those companies who are well-oiled. These startups who are just getting going and are trying to use AI for everything, I'm waiting for them to fail first, so we don't have to. But operations first, and then technology.
So I think if you look at it from a slightly different angle, I'm a labor nerd. I've loved this industry for years. I came from it, labor tech. Pest and green are very different, especially in the green industry. Labor is going to get hit, and the current political environment, labor is going to be a problem. So if you're not building automation right now, it's just not a luxury. It's going to be a requirement in your business. So like every time that your team is wasting minutes on repetitive tasks, you're losing margin. AI is where you can attack that, right? So whatever provider you're looking for, any type of the CRM that you're investing in, automation is the key. And the things that we're seeing right now built in the tech landscape with automation leveraging AI, pretty amazing. Absolutely amazing. Some of the things we're seeing. We're not quite to general intelligence yet, but I don't know, Frank. It feels like we're pretty close to it right now.
We're very close. Although I was telling RK this past week how it's amazing how bad AI can be at times. AI will just blow my mind all day long, and then I will ask a simple thing, and it comes back with just, who did this? This is terrible. So no matter what, you always need to validate the output with what you're using with technology. So this is going to get a lot of people into trouble over the next couple of years if they're just passing the AI content or whatever the information being provided via AI and not having that base knowledge.
But let's be honest though. Right now is the time to do it. It's not in the middle of your busy season. You do not want to.
This is an off season.
Anything right now. Test it. Get with your vendors. Look at it in the fall. There's a lot of trade shows going on. You can go test drive, do demos. All of the functions are out there right now, but this is the time to do it. If you're rolling it out in March and April, I'm sorry. I'm just going to apologize in advance on behalf of all your employees. It's going to be bad.
Yep. Agreed. I'll give that one to Jeff. Okay.
Jeff is our winner. All right. So we're moving into our segment 3. But before we do that, let's see who wins. On our growth investments, we were talking about tech stack upgrades and then adding a service line now, or focus on what works. Let's see your polls, see who's won. Jeff, correct for this round.
The good people are starting to feel bad for me.
Oh, there we go. This is a pity vote. We got a pity vote going on.
A little pity. I'll take it.
All right. Next segment up is marketing strategy. So our topic that we're going to debate here, are we pausing or are we pushing marketing in the off season?
I want this one.
Oh yeah. Take it, buddy.
Okay. So I have very strong opinions on this. It's going to very much depend on what your marketing budget is. Not at all a, where was I going with that? I did lose my train of thought. So sorry about that. It's a matter of making sure that you're maximizing your spend when the demand is highest, right? So in my mind, marketing really has to match cash flow. It needs to follow. You can't start dipping into your cash flow just to push marketing. So that means that your profitability is not there. So be very, very careful with off-season marketing. However, great time for more long-term strategies. So this is really where you want to be focused on marketing. So you might not be spending on lead gen when the demand is low and you're in the off season, but you might be looking at more areas. SEO, small plug, but SEO is a long-term growth strategy. And if you are really focused in on that in the off season, and you are really pushing lead gen during your season, that's a good balance. That's more of a balance that you want to approach. Now, if you've got deeper pockets and you're able to maintain your presence throughout the off season, that's another story. But I think we're all looking at this as how do we maximize cash? How do we maximize profit? And how do we do it during the off season? And in my mind, you can't push demand gen if demand's not there.
So, okay, so demand's not there. I think it's interesting you opened it up and said I've got very strong opinions, and then you said it depends. But okay, either way, however we want to go with this.
Touche.
So I agree with you. So branding is key right now. Branding is key because let's be honest. When you're building up that brand, people are noticing. You've got, let's say, billboards. People aren't thinking right now. There aren't ants coming into my house right now. It's not a big deal in the off season. I actually do have ants coming into my house right now, but this is the on season. But you want to be ready. So when they start thinking about it, in our area, we've got certain brands that are big. Of course, you've got the big national brands like the Orkins of the world, but they're always doing marketing. They're always doing branding. So from a demand gen, am I trying to produce leads right now? I think you could make an argument for producing leads right now, but just because the cost per lead is going to be so much cheaper in the off season, no one else is doing it. It's kind of that same opportunity we talked about earlier, where if I'm looking at this from an opportunity perspective, my competitors are laying down. It's kind of like everyone's sitting back. If they're all sitting back, why don't I pounce? Now's the time for me to go gain market share. So are there people out there that are having problems that are thinking about it? Maybe not. I don't know, but I know I'm starting to think about the green season. Maybe not pest. But in green, it's going to be right around the corner, right? So my thinking about it, is there going to be a ton of demand out there? But yeah, if I put a few dollars at it and I get cheaper leads this time of year, I can build up my pipeline, fill the top of funnel for next year. Sound familiar, RK? Top of funnel marketing, right? We're looking at for next year. So I don't know. I agree with you, but at the same time, I disagree. Is that me taking a hard stance?
I feel like I just lost the last 2 minutes of my life on that one. What are you talking about, man? Listen. Do you just think Google is going to say, hey, no one's advertising this time of year, so we're just going to give you these clicks for $1, $2? Those CPCs are still sky high in the off season, no matter how many competitors you have. So you've got to be very, very careful with how much you're pushing, because while we do see consistency throughout the year with maintaining cost per lead, that's done through a lot of bid management and budgeting. So when you're doing those kind of things and you're assuming just because demand is lower, you should have an okay cost per lead. You got to be very careful with how much it actually costs to generate those acquisitions.
All right, I'm going to wait to see the benchmark report that we're going to put out and see what that seasonality looks like, and we can readdress this when we get back into the benchmark and the seasonality report. I will say this one last piece here. From my experience, I know that a lot of the lens that we've got here is more pest than green. I've got a lot of experience in green. I ran the Real Green print division within WorkWave, so I got a little brainwashed on print. I can tell you what the big guys are doing right now, what the really, really big guys are doing. They are spending a ton of money on getting their data in line. They're getting their strategy. They're buying systems. They're setting the stage right now, investing heavily so that when they come out, the stage is set, right? So like marketing isn't really optional for them. It may not be demand gen marketing.
Yes.
They're investing heavily in their strategy for Q1. It's really just the opening act for spring, right? So everything right now is planning. My Xperia Green guys, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Scott knows exactly what I'm talking about. I doubt he's watching, but maybe he will at some point in time. They are slammed right now trying to get ready for spring.
I feel like Frank has more to say. We can extend our time a little bit
on
this.
What a treat.
If you feel like there's things left unsaid,
Yeah. So I think we can agree on the fact that demand gen gets very complicated in the off season if you're not budgeting properly. So when I'm looking at this and I'm trying to budget for marketing for the year, I want demand gen as high as we can get during the season, and when we're in the off season, you should be focusing on long-term strategies, which is basically what Jeff's saying.
Yeah, we agree, really.
Yeah.
There's no fireworks here, okay? No.
Well, good. Marketing may or may not be the lifeblood of our business. So let's hope that there's some agreement there. All right. So that was our marketing segment. Please feel free to vote if you feel that Jeff has won this argument. How about Frank? Either one, we'll forgive you for that vote, regardless. But moving,
I guess.
yeah, one vote for Frank. Any more?
I think Carl's got my back. I'm seeing the chat, and Carl, you and me, buddy.
Frank, Carl is not being paid on the side for this for this vote. We know that's common in the sports world, but not in the financial world. All right, so moving on to segment 4, we have people and customers. Our next topic is going to be hiring early. Is it smart or is it wasteful for our seasonal businesses?
All right, since labor was my thing, hiring was my thing, Frank. Although Coalmarch had Forgely at one point in time, so we've both been in this world. We've
been in this world, yeah.
I think it's an investment. I think bringing people in early is absolutely an investment. You get time to train, you get time to ramp them up. Are they going to be as busy? No, they're not going to. So you're not putting capital to the best use that you would in, say, the spring. But think about the customer service angle of this. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing worse than sending out somebody who's unprepared out to one of your clients, and then you're getting bad remarks, you're getting bad Google reviews. Things aren't looking good. So I would say right now is the time. Right now is the time. Spring's when you're selling. Like right now is the time to bring the people in, get your A team. Let's face it, like people are out there looking for jobs right now. Pest is a freaking fantastic job. It is a good career. There's not a lot of barriers to it. You don't have to have a master's degree to get into it. So the A team's out there right now. If you wait until the end, you're maybe stuck with the B team. You're playing with the bench. Why would you want to do that? Build it right now.
It's nice in theory. I really like that. But when you're managing a budget, Jeff, payroll is your biggest liability in slow months, for sure. So how do you offset that? If you're hiring, if you're focusing on hiring and you're getting the right people in the door, they're also going to be more likely to onboard more quickly, more rapidly. So instead of hiring early and having a 3 to 6 month ramp up, have you looked at your onboarding process? How are you getting, especially your technicians, from trainee to production as soon as possible? And that's how you can avoid that unnecessary overhead with hiring too early. That said, it's all about the time of year. So if you are a very seasonal business and you need to look at more seasonal employees, that's a good way to control your margins. But if you have basically production all year round, then you need to be focusing on keeping a very strong bench and hiring at the right time and not too early just to get them in the door.
So take a middle ground on this one. I can take a middle ground on this one. Maybe it's the time is to evaluate your onboarding process and to build your pipeline, right? Build up that applicant pipeline so that you've got people. Start talking to people that may be looking to make a change in career at the first point of the year. I talk to a lot, especially pest companies all the time, who don't want someone who came from a competitor. They don't want the brand. They don't want their bad habits coming into their business. Met with a client this past summer, and that was the big point. They're like, we want to bring them in. So I know these guys. If you're bringing somebody off the streets who has no background in pest, just me being ancillary, working in pest and green marketing, like it's not as easy as it looks from the outside. You're not just going around and spraying chemicals. You have to have certifications. There's a process that goes into it. So I don't know. I see the most successful companies that I've spoken to, they invest in the people and they're bringing them in and training them up in their way of executing. They don't want somebody that's going to bring bad habits.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the labor market and the seasonality of our industries that we're discussing don't necessarily fall in line, right? So we're not saying that as demand for your customers pick up, you should see more interest in potential new employees. So just this is where we definitely agree. Keeping your bench warm, recruiting all year round and making sure that you've got people who are ready to go. It's easier said than done. I can say this, but very easier said than done. But at the same time, focusing your off season on onboarding and recruitment for spring is definitely where your head needs to be.
We don't want to really ignore more labor intensive work. You've got, especially in the landscaping, the lawn industry, you've got some labor it's not as highly skilled. There isn't as much training in that scenario. You probably can fill on demand, although it's going to be tricky. Coming up in the next few seasons. So I don't know, but I think when you've got somebody that's more skilled or back office work, you need to invest. You need to put time in there. I think we were just internally talking about a member of our sales team, bringing them on. Somebody's coming on, and we're looking at the sales training, and it's a 3-month ramp getting this individual and getting them ready to go. So I don't think it's as quick as overnight. I don't care how efficient your onboarding process is. It takes a little bit of time to get somebody into your organization.
Yep. And you can either look at it as an investment or overhead. So it's all the same.
Both.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. So let's think about how these employees are going to impact our business. A huge one is customer retention. We have to have the right employees to have that customer retention. So if we're thinking about this from the off-season standpoint, customer retention or new acquisition as a focus in the off-season? Frank, what are your thoughts?
Retention is going to be what really helps control your margins. Now, I know with being involved in this industry for over 10 years that people moving is generally the biggest cancel reason. So how are you making sure that these things that are out of your control with people moving, from their house to wherever they're going, what are you doing to not only retain that customer who is moving, assuming they're still in your service area, but how are you also selling to the new people moving into your customer's house? So to me, and this is to say that operationally and customer experience wise, you're hitting on all cylinders, but those things that are outside of your control when it comes to retention, just people moving, how are you minimizing the pain that you're getting from people moving out of your service area? And to me, it's making sure that you're marketing to those new people who are moving into that same home.
So from a retention standpoint, let's be honest, like retention's key. It's key in our business. It's key in every business. It's a baseline, but it's not growth. Unless you're doing what we talked about earlier and adding a bunch of service lines and trying to upsell and just price increases like crazy, it's not growth. So it depends on what your strategy is. If you're a high growth organization, if you are looking for multiples and to move your business forward faster, you've got to do both. And I'm going to slightly put that tilt over there toward acquisition. I think customers stick around, not always, not for everything, but they stick around. Price increases happen. You don't see half your client base leave. So I think, honestly, this time of year, I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think acquisition should be your stranglehold. You should be focusing on acquisition for growth. You should be looking at for the next year, what you're doing in the next season, so that you can overcome any retention issues that you've got, any churn issues that they're going to happen. They're going to happen with employees. It's going to happen with clients. People are going to move because for whatever reason, for jobs or everything else. So I think retention is going to keep you afloat. Acquisition is what builds you the empire. That's what gets you the market share over everything else.
People like Jeff who are thinking this way and are ignoring basic math they really just get under my skin, because math is math. So here's a question, Jeff, boss. If I'm able to improve retention by 0.5%, let's say I'm losing 2% of my customers each month, and I'm able to drop that down to 1.5 or whatever, is that going to move the needle more than trying to acquire some new customers in the off season? Or so I say that to say, I don't think we know the answer. It's going to be dependent on your business. Are you going to be able to move the needle enough in retention to offset the need for investing in marketing services or marketing and lead gen in the off season?
I think you're in a position where if you are focused solely on retaining 99.5% of your business, you're going to stay at 99.5% of your business. And I think that's where you're going to be. But if you can invest and you've got a proven strategy that you've built and you've worked with some pros that know how to grow your business, and you think you've got 20-30% margin increases, I'm going to let that 0.5% slip, because that's math, Frank. That's math.
Show me the math. You don't even have a whiteboard behind you.
It's okay.
All right. Well, I've got nothing else. Uh-oh, RK, we lost your
Okay, I think we lost you. You're muted.
I'm sorry. I'm new to this. Any final words, or have you said your piece on retention versus acquisition?
Yeah, I'm out.
I think we're good.
Okay, so poll for our group here. What's the bigger growth lever for you in the off season? Is it retaining current customers, like Frank has been hopefully convincing you of, or is it acquiring new customers like Jeff stands behind without a care for math? We want to hear what you're.
I'm still trying to figure out how 20% year-over-year growth is worse than less 1% retention rate. I just don't get that. We'll have to go get our calculators, our abacus out later, Frank. And
you need to tell me how much
slide rule on this one, don't we? I need a spreadsheet.
No need for calculators. We'll go right to ChatGPT. They'll give us our answers.
That is true.
All right.
Poor calculator companies. They just got nothing anymore. Texas Instruments. Okay, sorry.
We're going into our final segment here, switching gears to pricing and forecasting. First up on our topics are rate increases. Everyone loves to talk about rate increases. Are we doing them in the off season? Are we doing them in the peak season? Who's taking a stab at this first?
You want me to jump in, Frank?
Take it.
So I'm going to take the position of you wait until peak season. I think you do peak season. Don't risk. We're talking about retention. You're big on retention, Frank. The biggest reason to forget somebody to look around is you jack up their prices in the off season when they don't have a need for your services. So if I'm looking at it, hey, I'm not even paying for this. I don't need this treatment right now for ants. I don't know if I'm going to have them. They just jacked up the prices 10%. So you know what? I'm going to go look around. I'll wait. I'm not going to renew. No prepay for me. That's me as a consumer. That's consumer Jeff and how I would think about it, right? So I'm going to look at when demand is high, when people are actually using the services. One, they're in the middle of it. They're using it. They need it at that point in time. So the chances of them like taking the time to go search around are probably a lot less at that point in time. You know, if I want to raise prices in the middle, are they even going to notice? Like they're busy, things are going on. They have a lot of competitors. Yeah, I may have competitors advertising to them, but I don't know. I wouldn't see it. I think the risk churn in the off season is going to be a lot higher than it's going to be if you're doing it mid-season when you're actually performing the services. So that's my position.
Okay. It's hard to disagree with that because that was actually logical. So I appreciate your stance on that. You know, looking at this in a different way, there's a couple things that you really need to factor in. So think about just your own behavior as a person in this world. And when are you more likely to, you know, tighten up on your own spending versus a little more free? And generally people are looking at that towards the end of the year. I'm spending a lot of money on Christmas shopping, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all this money flying around. So why not do it during that time when everyone's spending money? They're going to start looking at their finances earlier in the year. And generally, if you hit them with an off-season increase towards the end of the year, especially when people are less likely to be at work and checking their email and whatever the case, however you're communicating price increases, do it towards the end of the year when that all of your customers are busy doing other things.
All right, then let me throw a question at you there, Frank. All right, we're going to tie this back a little bit. So would it be worth to offer a 5 or 10% prepaid discount for retention efforts right now to retain them versus raising and then raise later in the season when you want to come back, like when you're doing a renewal or you're doing an upsell throughout the year? Maybe those two don't really gel well together, but
yeah,
no, I'm saying it out loud. I don't know if they really fit, but if you're going to raise prices right now, you could raise prices, but offer a prepaid discount and lock them in for next year. How about that for a strategy?
Yeah, I think when it comes to prepays, so prepays for sure, that's going to lock a person in because they're not going to want to double pay on a service that they've already paid for necessarily. But if we're not talking about prepays and we're simply talking about price increases, when really is the right time to do it? No, customers are never happy. So, and for for companies who are on this webinar, if you've done price increases, I'm definitely interested to see what kind of response you've had and what the retention has looked like off of that. But, in a business where you can increase your revenue substantially by increasing your monthly price by $1 or $2, then it's not going to hit, the pocketbooks of your customers as much as maybe for a service that's thousands of dollars a month where you have to put in a price increase. So considering, moving from $35 a month to 37 as a customer, I'm less likely to go cancel no matter when it is. So either way, we definitely recommend rate increases. I mean, there's nothing that's saying to not raise your prices because everyone else is. And I don't think most companies that we work with worry too much about their competitors staying low because everyone's just kind of following along. And that's why when you compare prices in general for this industry compared to pre-COVID, it's significantly different. So there's not a lot of value plays out there anymore is my thought.
So what's going to be really interesting, and this is something we may have to come back and circle back on at some point in time, but we had all the crazy inflation, COVID, we dumped all the cash in the economy, it goes through the freaking roof. And then now we've settled. Now it looks like the consumer price index is sitting around ideals 2%. So, I mean, prices are going up 2% regardless every single year. You've got to be doing at least that. But now it's looking at 2.75. Well, now you put in the tariffs and you're starting to see wholesale prices jump. So what happens if we go through another wild kind of swing in tariffs and inflation again? Does it become this war for raising prices across, or does the lowest cost win? I don't have a prediction in that, but we could do a whole other webinar or podcast on that.
You're going to leave us on a cliffhanger with that section.
All I can say is there's nothing that I have seen over the last 10 years that tell me that we're gonna ride into a smooth market. I think we're going to have quite a bit of ups and downs over who knows how long this is going to last. But
so Brandon just said they do the same tactic that I was mentioning, which is you're raising prices for the next year and then you're offering a prepay discount. So you're effectively charging the same, depending if they're the same discount and prepay, the raise and the prepay, but they're seeing value in that, right? Yeah, there's value in that for consumers.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah,
we'll give Brandon the win on this one.
There we go. One for Brandon. All right. So final topic, forecast aggressively or conservatively? I think I know where Frank lies on this.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be the conservative person here. So either way, this is one where I'm actually going to take an in between. I hate to do it. We're near the end of this thing, and I think we've let the cat out of the bag that these aren't necessarily our opinions. However, this is one where you just gotta blend it because you can't be unrealistic about goal setting because you got to get people engaged. You've got to get your own people engaged and focused on a realistic target. And if you set those too high, if you're going too aggressive on forecasting, I would be concerned, especially from your sales team. Again, but going too conservative, it might just be opportunity loss. So either way, don't get yourselves into cash flow trouble by being too aggressive with your budget.
I'm with you on this. I think it depends, and it depends on whether or not you're a sole proprietor or you've got investors behind you, and those are two completely different tactics. I can tell you from an internal perspective, aggressive goals get results. When a team is motivated behind internal aggressive goals, we as a team, we have aggressive goals. We're not sitting back and we push, and good teams respond to that and they push. But that's in a smaller company environment. Now, on the flip side of that, we've worked in the equity markets where you sit out there and if you miss, they're looking for accuracy. So being conservative in those worlds, that's how you survive. That's how you grow. So their job is to come back and say, this isn't aggressive enough. So I want 3 more percentage points on that growth number. So I think it's solidly in the it depends bucket on who you're really answering toward. You can forecast bold, but you got to report very carefully. There are two different tactics that are out there. So I'm going to go personally, my style is aggressive. just because I like to set myself to very high standards. I like to set my team to high standards. We want to push. We're looking to move quick. I don't like to set the bar low and then overachieve. I'd rather shoot for the stars and land at the moon. Is that the saying? Yeah, I think that's the saying, right?
I think that's the saying. Hey, RK, don't tell my boss this.
Okay.
But conservative forecasts are actually easier. So if we're going to forecast conservatively, this is where I definitely agree with Jeff. Having a more aggressive forecast is it's definitely what you need to do, but you got to be realistic. If you tend to go too conservative and you're not growing and you're just trying to maintain profit or even maximize profitability, you're not going to see the growth. You're going to, like Jeff was saying, you're going to maintain your retention, and that you're not going to grow from there. So either way, this is a balance. I think we can all agree on that.
All right.
I think we can.
You all said it best. So we're going to wrap things up with a lightning round. But before we do, if anyone listening has questions, maybe even another quick debate to wrap us up after this lightning round, whether on topic or not, we'd love to hear it. But in this section, Jeff and Frank, I'll give you a topic and you can choose a side. It can be the same side, although we prefer to have a fight. But you have 1 to 2 sentences to explain your position, and I will cut you off if you go too long.
Sure.
So, M&A, are we selling in 2026 or are we waiting? Jeff?
By we, you're talking about our clients, not Coalmarch.
Yes, correct.
Out there. Okay.
We're not selling.
It's not counting as my 2 sentences. We're not putting that out there. Okay. M&A markets, we're waiting. We're waiting because everything that we're seeing in the market right now is pointing toward lower interest rates, or at least a push by the administration for lower interest rates. And what I saw in the WorkWave world and very high M&A over the past 5 years, interest rates go down, capital comes into the market, premium brands get snapped up.
Okay, Frank, how about you?
My crystal ball is in the shop, so I don't know the answer to this question. However, take what you can get now if the offer is good. If you want to retire, take it and go and enjoy the rest of your life. But if you're trying to maximize, then 26 is probably not the year to plan for it. We'll just put it that way.
Okay. Next up, are we investing in long-term marketing, SEO, branding, or short-term lead gen? Frank, I'll have you start it out.
It's obviously long-term, folks, and I include SEO, I include branding in that. Don't assume that you can generate the demand that doesn't exist during the off season. Focus on long-term investments with your marketing budget in the off season.
Okay, definitely.
All right, I'm going to straddle the fence on this one, RK. It's both. It's both, and I'm going to go back to number one. If you're looking to sell in the next couple of years, you need to be investing in short term. You need to be investing in high growth right now. Show high margins, EBITDA dollars out there, high growth, top line growth. That's what the investors want to see.
Okay, our final one. Use extra cash for owner distribution versus reinvest into the business.
How can I say this enough? Reinvest. Of course, if you have a lifestyle business and this is a lifestyle business and you're pulling out profit, sure, we've all worked for those, we've been around those, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you have an exit plan, if you're looking to do anything in your business, put it all back in. Put those chips on the table.
All right. We've heard
as the only person on this webinar who has worked for an owner of Coalmarch. I've worked for 2 owners of Coalmarch. My focus is on making money for the owner because a business exists to create wealth. This is actually what is here. But anytime you're reinvesting, it should be focused on the value of your company and not necessarily on just straight growth. Because if you're the owner and you're thinking about selling someday, it's all about value and not about what you're getting today.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Okay, we have a final poll, your final votes for Jeff versus Frank. While you're voting, we do have an audience question, Frank, Jeff. Brandon's coming in with the hardest part to forecast is cost per lead, cost per acquisition, especially on the digital side. What percentage increase in CPL would you predict year over year as digital ad costs are always going up? Ooh, that's a toughie.
Frank,
that's a loaded question.
And he can.
I'm sorry.
Can he hold us to this? Is this being recorded? Is this contractual?
I don't think we can be held to this in the court of law.
What percentage increase are you thinking for 2026 for a cost per lead?
I wouldn't plan on single digits any year. I think you always need to be planning for higher costs across the board. That's what gets you into the most trouble. I say that from experience.
Yeah.
Forecasting lower costs, planning, lower costs, and then, and then you get buried by whatever expenses you weren't expecting. So, I would always, when it comes to forecasting, I would get conservative when it comes to ad spend, because nothing over, especially the last 5 years, tells us that it's going to get cheaper.
No, absolutely. We know
So
that.
let me throw out, I don't disagree with that at all. I think it's right on. I'm not going to take a contrary point to that, but I will point to two different factors that could influence it if you're watching. One is looking at economic factors and our actual GDP and growth. So if you're looking at the economic, consumers look like they're starting to pull back a little bit right now, and consumers start pull back. We kind of get into that cycle like we did in 2020. Costs could go up. It just depends on whether they're willing to spend, and the cost of leads goes up. So don't really know. That's a big factor out there right now. So I don't know. The other factor that goes into this is how are consumers shifting their search habits. Like right now, we have pretty much one source out. There's one place out there that you're really getting your advertising. The biggest bunch of your ads are coming from. Is somebody else going to step up and really start to take market share? I don't think so. But if that happened and you all of a sudden had a Chat GPT that started to take over Chrome market share at some point in time, and now you've got different search, then that could affect things too from a competitive landscape perspective. But as of right now, it doesn't look like anything's going to change, and we're going to be on the same trajectory. But you have to watch these things as a business owner. You have to watch these things.
And I know you'll actually agree with me on this, Jeff, but I think when it comes to rising costs in marketing and all the technology that exists for operations, utilize that technology in operations to minimize your costs so you can offset your larger marketing costs. As we see that continue to rise, all this technology that exists already today is to help you streamline your operations and to spend less operationally. So hopefully you can reinvest for growth.
Yeah, I think you and I were sharing an article on that this morning or last night, something about that. Yeah, it was really interesting where people are trying to make a big impact to sales and marketing automation. They're dumping their dollars there for AI and automation, and that's not the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit is actually business operations and automation around business operations for scale. So yeah, it's a good point. Whereas if you're going to put your dollars in investment from technology somewhere, it's probably on automation on the back end of your business. It's not really going to be on customer acquisition because it's just not there yet.
Right. Yep.
All right. Well, appreciate that question, Brandon. I don't think we have any others. So thank you guys for hanging in there with us and jumping into the chat. We really appreciate the energy from today. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Frank. But before we go, we'd love your feedback. Let us know if you like this format. Did you like the debates, the polls, the back and forth? Happy to deliver if you do. Your input really helps us make our sessions a little bit better.
And would you like us to be more honest next time? Have some actual gusto behind this. Yeah,
please. Okay. But don't forget, our next session is on September 4th at noon Eastern. It's quarterly rocks versus daily firefighting, how to set actionable goals that stick for 2026. Mark your calendars. Here's our final poll. Who did you align with more throughout the session, Jeff or Frank?
I want to see the attendee list. I'm not buying it. These are mail-in ballots, Frank.
I saw my guy Damon on there. So I don't know, Damon, I hope you gave me a vote, please.
We'll see on the other side. But thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you next time. Have a great one.
Thank you, RK. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Bye.